All right, welcome into a special edition of the Good and Plenty podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Goodman, and we are doing a tribute to Big John Thompson. And the best way to do it is talk to a bunch of guys that played for Big John. And we've compiled, gotten together 5 guys that are going to talk stories. They're going to pay tribute to him, and I think it's going to be the best way to do it. Let me introduce everybody first. We'll start with the old guy. That's Eugene Smith in California. Played for Georgetown 80 to 84. Was a senior on the national title team. 2-time captain. Tough as shit. Defended. Did everything. Gene, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
5 fouls. 5 fouls. I got 5 fouls.
You used them all.
Well, hey, but not only do you use them all, ask him what his nickname is.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that for the conversation.
All right. We'll get that in there. I'm going in order of age. All right. So we know who's next. Horace Broadnax next, played in 82 to 86. Was a sophomore in that national title team. Now the head coach at Savannah State. Horace, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, it was good, Jeff. Good to be here, man. I just want to quickly condolence to John III, Ronnie, and Tiffany, man. We lost the coach, but they lost the father.
Yeah.
So, hey, we're gonna pay tribute to him. Loved him, great man. Ready to talk about it.
All right. Third up, Jaren Jackson, the senior, played 85 to 89. Came onto the call a little late. I think he's been following his son. The NBA player routine, which is jumping out a little bit late, but he made it to the party. And listen, appreciate you doing this, Jaren. I know how busy you guys are, and I know what this means to you guys.
Yes, man. I appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks for doing this platform to talk about Coach Thompson, man, at a time like this. I'm really excited about it, but at the same time, sad.
Yeah, I think we all are. All right, Mark Tillman up next, 86 to 90. How about a career record? I saw this, Mark, 102 and 24 in your career. Average about 20 a game as a senior. Could guard, could shoot, could kind of do it all. Pretty damn underrated in your career, if I do say so myself. And guys, let me preface this also with, I'm a guy who grew up in Boston, and Big East basketball was what got me started for my love for college hoops. So all you guys contributed to that.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to echo definitely what Jaren and Horace said about John, Ronnie, and Tiffany. We lost a coach, but like he said, they lost a father. So just want to send my condolences out to those that in his family.
All right, now, last but not least, the young buck. I don't know who's called you a young buck lately, Jerome. But on this call, you're the young buck. So you put 94 to 96, a couple years of JUCO ball. Then came to Georgetown, junkyard dog, then went on to a great NBA career as well. Thanks for coming on and making this work.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's a blessing to be here amongst greatness with these guys, and my condolences absolutely to the family and the Thompson family. Yeah,
mine as well. I didn't know Big John that well, obviously. Had dealt with him over the years as media, but I wanted to put this together because I'm sick and tired, and I watched this last week with Lute Olson. I went to Arizona and watched it with some people talking about Lute Olson, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Like, they didn't know him that well. Like, so for this, I really wanted to get on guys that knew Big John, that could, again, talk about what he meant to them, what he meant to the game. And I'll start with Eugene as the elder statesman of the group. What did he mean to you? What did Big John mean to you, and how did he impact your life?
Again, I want to echo what everyone said. I didn't extend my condolences to the family. The power of this moment for all of us is grand. Being the elder statesmen here, I'm connected to all these guys. We have a common thread, and I think that's something that the program instilled in all of us. Some of the ethos on how to live your life, how to transition from, being a student athlete into the real world were paramount to Big John. And I shared this with Mark earlier. For me, it's been kind of difficult to kind of put it into words, the full scope, the full magnitude, but it kind of came home for me when I read 2 posts from 2 players that were my captain. while I was there, and it was Sleepy Floyd and Eric Smith. And they dropped some nuggets on, they dropped their heartfelt emotions on Facebook yesterday evening. And that's all I needed.
Yeah.
So I essentially commented on their post, and that brought me whole. Like it's not an individual thing. This is a collective thing. I mean, we are serious about this brotherhood at Georgetown. So for me, that's the major takeaway. And you know, I think that's something Big John, whether he did it by design or not, that's what he created. I mean, you know, we were unapologetically Black. We were ultra Black. We understood the time, we understood the moment, and it was something that was, you know, was every day. I mean, Tillman talks about those mental practices we used to have. You know, so again, I'm probably of all the guys here, because one thing I liked about Big John, each of us had our own individual flow with him. Like, he didn't treat everybody the same, and those who played more, he talked to more. So I'm the guy here that probably played the least. So even though I was captain, and that's a whole nother conversation. I just think, you know.
Gene, you played a lot, man. You had to bring that defense, man.
Yeah, man.
You want to bring that defense. You played a lot.
Okay. My point is this.
Yeah.
Those who stuffed the stat sheet like Jerome Junkyard Dog Williams probably was having more of those ball type conversations with Big John, and I just think, you know, if anything, you know, just learning how to navigate, learning how to deal personally and professionally, knowing the difference, you know, gauging the room. I mean, all these things that, yeah, we were hoopers, but all of this applied off the court as well. So I just think he brought the whole thing into focus for us, and I'm looking forward to hearing what my other brothers have to say. But yeah, I'll set it off that way.
Mark, what were those practices like?
Man, they were quite interesting. And so I would say, let me just give a little background of my relationship with Coach Thompson. I think most of these guys on here know that, you know, I kind of grew up in his house. So me and Ronnie and JT3 kind of grew up together. So I knew Coach from the very beginning from the house, but I didn't know what he was like on the basketball court. So I'm just gonna skip right into once I decided to go to Georgetown. Well, yeah, when I decided to go to Georgetown, I just remember when I called the house and I asked to speak to Coach. Ronnie answered the phone. I said, "Hey, Ron, is your dad home?" "Nah, he's not here. What time will he be in?" He said, "He'll be here around 12. I said, "Well, all right, but tell him that I'm coming." So he was like, "Motherfucker, you call." "Oh, can we curse?"
You do whatever you want in here. Whatever you want.
Too late, man.
Oh, okay. So he said, "Motherfucker, you call back." So I'm like, okay, I called back. He said around 12. He said, yeah. So I called back around 12 o'clock. Say, "Hey, Coach, this is Mark Tillman. How you doing?" Say, "How you doing, son?" Everybody's a son to him. I said, "Yeah, I think I want to attend Georgetown." He said, "Well, have you visited any other schools?" I said, "Well, no, I haven't visited any other schools." Because initially, my first four choices were North Carolina, North Carolina, North Carolina. That was my order. And but anyway, going back to Coach, he said, "Did you take any visits to any other schools?" I said, "No, I didn't take any visits to any other schools." I knew I really wanted to go to Georgetown. And once the late Dean Smith and the present Coach Roy Williams came to my house, and you know, my father had some academic questions he asked he didn't like, and I kind of saw the ball rolling down the hill. So really, I was like, "Here comes Georgetown, here I come." So I told him, "No, I didn't take any visits." He said, "Well, son, I think you need to take a visit because it's going to be like playing for your father." And he hung up on me. So I was like, "What's wrong with this?" So I take a visit to Villanova. Come back, "Coach, I took a visit. I said, "I took a visit and I'm going to attend Georgetown." I mean, "Well, did you take a visit?" "Yes, I took a visit." "Where did you go?" I said, "Villanova." He said, "How many visits do you get technically?" I said, "You get," I think it was 5 at the time. And he said, "Motherfucker, can you count?" And hung up again. So I'm like, this motherfucker's crazy. So I took like 1 or 2 more visits, called Coach back and said, hey, Coach, listen here, man. I said, listen, I didn't take the 5. I took like 2 others. I don't want to take any more visits. I want to come to Georgetown. All right, I'll tell you when you can let it out to the press. And he hung up on me. So right then and there, I was being introduced to coming to the school.
Right.
But I still didn't understand what it was like until I got into practice. So I believe, I can't remember, I think it was the first practice, maybe it was a couple practices, like I said, the very first practice. But I know he was cussing. I didn't know he used such colorful language at the time and used it damn well because he talks about that too. And he was cursing somebody out. And I'm like, damn, who he talking to like this? We locked eyes. You know what he said? Motherfucker, I'm talking to you. So that was my introduction to saying this is going to be a long 4 years for me. But I was used to it because my dad was tough on me. He was very demanding. All practice was demanding. People always asked about the culture. How does he get you guys to play so hard? It was expected when you walked in the door, nothing less. I don't know what it was. I think he always used to say that, you know, people are not scared of you, they're scared of the ghost. And I guess the ghost is the Horace Brownacks, the Gene Smiths, and the Patrick Ewing that were before us. But that's literally true, and that's kind of how the practices were. They were like dog fights. I'll let Jaren, because me and Jaren played 3 years together, so I'm not going to give all the stories. I'm going to let Jaren tell some of his stories about practices, because we had some very good battles in practice, especially when he was a senior and I was a junior. We were really good that year when Alonzo Dikembe came into play.
Right.
How scared?
Jeff, before you get to Jaren, Tillman had his four choices. My 4 choices were Georgetown, and the draft, because the military was still drafting. So those were my 4 choices.
And giant food.
Made the right choice. Jaren, how intimidating? I always say the 2 most imposing, intimidating people I've ever met in my entire life were Big John and Karl Malone. Those were the 2 that I was just like, man, oh man, like I'm just scared. And I met it. Like, I've met everybody over the course of my career. I interviewed James Worthy when I was like 13. So I wasn't really intimidated by much. But Big John intimidated the shit out of me. How intimidating was it to play for him?
Wow. I knew his impact on everyone else. I think we all knew about Coach Thompson's presence. You know, yes, he's intimidating. Walks into a room and he's a huge guy. And it could be the smallest of a room, be it in his office, on the basketball court, in practice, or at the game. Even his presence on the sidelines, well, it was incredible. So, and I knew the impact of his presence to everyone else. But for us, part of me thought I wasn't as intimidated. Part of me thought it was funny. Yeah. At times, the way he kind of talked to you, he kind of reminds you of your old uncle in your neighborhood, the dude that you kind of, you looked up to as a kid, man. Like Mark mentioned his dad, and for many players that played for him, especially all the black players, I think most of the guys were black, but I believe he reminds me of my dad.
When you said most of the black,
I don't know. How many white guys played for Coach Thompson, fellas? I got a man.
John, I think when we was there, it was probably 2. Maybe 1. Tom Lang is the one that I can remember.
Right, Lang. So Coach did a lot of recruiting in the neighborhood, man.
He Mike Stable.
See, could he not get white players? Could he not get would a white player just not go?
I don't know if he tried. I don't know if he tried. You turned him down.
Carl and David Blue played with us, right, Gene?
Yes, sir.
They were seeing Kirk Carl and David Blue.
Yeah, and I had Jeff Bullis when I first got there. And the great story about Jeff Bullis, not to cut you off, Jaren, the great story about Jeff Bullis was significant in the 79, 80, and I think maybe 78, 79 team. And kindred spirit, great guy. But that recruiting class of Patrick, Billy Martin, Anthony Jones, Ralph Dalton, basically let him know might not be, it's going to be a little tough.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing about that is Jeff opted out on his own. Big John let him keep his scholarship.
Wow.
So, that was 2 years, boom, boom, boom. And guess who was at that national championship game in '84? Guess who was at that national championship game in '82? Jeff Bullis. So, I don't know if he did or didn't. We had David Dunn come through there for a season.
Yeah, he was in my class.
I just, and I've always loved being black, but if I would have been a white dude, I would have loved to came there and rocked, because I would have been a hacker as a white dude. I've been filing cats, so I don't think it was intentional or unintentional, but I mean, you got to figure we know the world that we live in. We know the optics, which again, the optics. You're hearing these stories now. Everybody thought Georgetown was HBCU back then. That's not nothing. That's not anything new. And you're hearing these sound bites as if it's something new. And again, I think it shows how powerful that program is, how diverse our fan base is. And again, Jeff, I'm throwing shots at the media. I'm throwing shots at sports writers. I'm throwing shots at all y'all. Y'all late to the game. I'm sorry, Jared. Back to you, man. My bad. I was going on a tangent.
Well, here's the only thing I'll say to that is I think it's hard because I think Georgetown, unfortunately, the program hasn't been great over the last decade. So unfortunately, I argue with people all the time. People will try to claim it's not a top 20 program in the country, like right now. And I'll say, fine, right now, this second, it hasn't been. But if you put all the programs in a hat, especially with a new practice facility and all the recruits in the area, I'm not getting 20 programs in before I name Georgetown. I'm not, period.
Back to Coach Thompson, man.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm diverting you. I apologize. Let's get back to it. Get back on point.
Yeah. Let me give a memorable moment that kind of describes Coach. I remember, I guess it was my junior year, the year that Coach Thompson coached the Olympic team. He went off.
Summer going to 88.
Yeah, so when he went off to coach, I must admit, I think the whole team was relieved. We were glad he was not on that campus. He wasn't around. I think it was during that summer. We were playing in the Kenner League. And I mean, I never felt so much freedom in my life, I think so I think guys kind of went off and did their own thing. Guys had a chance to go home. Guys, I don't even know if they went to all their summer classes, man. They played I don't know if they played every Kenner League game, but I was one of my best summers. But Coach wasn't around. We all looking at him and how he's handling the Olympic team. And everybody knows his story about the Olympic team. But for us, he still was aware of what was going on that campus with the team. And all I remember was, I think it was Perry, somebody, the guys went home. He went off to New Orleans. I don't know if guys took some of their summer courses, but something went wrong. And Coach was informed. I think it was maybe Coach Riley, Coach Estrick, the guys maybe, I don't know if they ratted us out or they found out what was going on. But Coach came back from the Olympics, and he was on a mission, man, to send a message to us. All I remember was, man, we used to run without the basketball. We were on the field running. I mean, he took away the basketball. He was going to punish us, bro. And he thought it was funny. Running the heck out of us, he thought was very, very funny. And I ain't gonna lie, I was pissed. And I couldn't say a damn thing to him, And so I think that's where he gets this chuckle out of making us run. But I remember running around the area on the campus now. There's so many buildings there now. But I remember it was like around the little track field, the tennis field or whatever.
Yeah, still.
Yes, somewhere around there, man. He was killing us. It was in the evening. Horace, I think you had just got out of there. Man, you missed a good one. I know you got your own stories, man, but damn it, he ran the smack out of us, without the basketball. We wanted to go into starting the season off, going to practice. You're looking forward to getting on the court and, you're doing the first practice of the season, man. Let's go play some ball, man. Whatever, coach, whatever you want to go over. But no, that wasn't him. He put us on that track outside without the ball. And I think we've done that, Mark, maybe about a week. A long time, man, but without touching the basketball.
Really, a week.
And it just tells you, his impact. He wanted to send a message. He was away at the Olympics, and he heard about how we were handling ourselves in preparation for the season. And he sent a message that year, man. And I don't think Reggie Williams really gave a damn. He gave about running. He wasn't going to do all that. He's the big-time player. Reggie was not going to do as much, but I remember everybody else, man. I remember Dwayne he wanted to just drop. He was so pissed off. But I thought it was funny. I didn't mind running. I was pissed, but at the end, I didn't care. I just knew everybody else was upset. And I thought somebody was going off. Tillman, I thought maybe you'll go off on coach. This is going into sophomore, junior year. I know you may have had enough of them at the time, but this is the impact that he's got. You go through it and you're ready to go off, but you can't. And now I look back, I love him for it because, he's known as a disciplinarian, in that sense, but he wanted to get his message across, and he did that with all of us, no matter what background we had, how we were doing in school. Some of the guys were, did well in school, and some were, having some trouble at Georgetown. So he was on top of all of that, and he wanted to send a message coming back from the Olympics. I'm not going to say maybe because of the outcome of the Olympics that he came back home and took it out on us. I'm not going to do that. Jeff, I'm letting you do that. I'm letting you know. I'm not going to go there. I'm just saying that he kept up with Georgetown basketball while he was at the Olympics. I think the only one that didn't run was Charles because he was on the team, on the Olympic team. So, but that's kind of stands out to me is that time when he was not on the campus. But when he was on the campus, even when he's not around, his presence was there. I never wanted to come up to our room or anything like that to monitor how we're handling ourselves because everybody was always looking over their shoulders. Where coach is around here somewhere, man. So those are the memories I have of coach, practice, the games, I know how it affected everybody else. I just, personally, I just thought he just sent a message, man. He sent the message to the whole team and the whole program that you come in, you work hard, we're going to get it done. And it scared the heck out of every team we played. And I love that about him, that presence he had.
Horace, what's your favorite memory of Coach?
Well, I got a story about Jaron and one about Gene. I know when I was a senior, I think we wasn't winning a couple of games, and Coach has a tendency to call meetings, and pretty much when he called a meeting, it's basically him doing all the talking.
When democracy breaks down, dictatorship takes over.
So I guarantee you, Jaron ain't gonna remember this. So Coach asks, just hey, anybody got any questions? So hey man, shut the hell up and let's get out of here. Yeah. And Jaron's like, yeah, I got a question.
And I'm sure Horace went, God damn.
This young dude, this freshman, talking.
This freshman, man. I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
Seniority was important at the program, Jeff.
And Jaron said, Coach, well, you could believe one way, but I believe this way. I believe, he started talking about, I can shoot the ball. I need to shoot the ball. I'm capable of shooting the ball.
Aaron, you remember this?
I don't know if we had a senior meeting after that one with Jaron, but I just recall, he said, damn, this dude is off the chain here. and my main man, Gene Smith, right? Talking about practices. Allen Iverson, practice. we win the national championship, right? So, hey, we're going to come back, fly, come back to DC, be good. So I ain't know nothing about it. So the following year in 85, coach said, well, gentlemen, because of Gene Smith and his, late night antics after the Final Four, we're going to practice. We typically practice 4:30 to 7:30 in the evening. So he said, I tell you what, we're going to practice 4:30 in the morning to 7:30. All right. And then we're going to come back and practice 4:30 to 7:30 in the afternoon because of Gene Smith. We practice 6 hours a day. Now, Jeff, you know that's today that's an NCAA violation.
That's against the law.
That's two NCAA violations. One, you can't practice before 6 a.m. in the morning. Secondly, you can't practice more than 4 hours a day. We did that for about 2 months, and I'm telling you, it wasn't no cakewalk in the morning time, and it wasn't no cakewalk in the afternoon. So that was Gene Smith and Jaren Jackson. I got sandwiched in between that.
Hey, hold on. Let me jump in there, man. Let me jump in there. Hey, Horace, I kind of remember that story, man. I kind of remember. I just thought he would be a little, considerate. Allow me to say. I'm acting like I'm a smart freshman coming from New Orleans. I'm coming the previous year, man. You guys have been just killing, man. I don't know if you lost too many games, and here I come coming in with some questions. So I learned a hard lesson, which is cool. I learned a hard lesson, but I must admit, man, Horace, you bring back a great memory, man, and I learned my lesson. I don't think I ever said anything any more than that since. If I did, maybe Mark will remember me saying more. But that one, freshman year, I think Wingate and all the guys, man, put me in check, at that time. And so, learning lesson for Jaren Jackson.
Well, Jeff, before you go to J-Dog, Jaren, do you remember?
Sir.
We were in the locker room. I'm not in the locker room, we was in the training room. Me, you, Lonzo, and Dwayne Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Thompson walks in with them cowboy boots on. And you hollered out, yeah!
Yo, that was Alonzo, man. That wasn't me.
That was you, okay. And you talk about running. Man. We ran at the end of practice, and he started dropping people out one by one.
Right.
Who's last standing?
Me, Jaren, Zoe, and Dwayne was the last four. That's right, and it was Zoe. And Zoe was the last one standing because he was the one who popped out the cowboy sign.
I think Coach was coming from maybe a recruiting trip down south. He was with those boots on, man. I don't know. But, I don't know, man. But that just tells you, there were times in which coaches will be dressed, ready for practice. Other times, we don't know where Coach came from when he walks into the gym. He come from some trip he took, and he walks in there with a suit. I don't need a suit or a tie, a shirt and tie with some pants on, and who Lord knows what shoes he had on. So, but Coach, bro, I did not say that yeehaw, but it does sound like something I would say.
No, it was Zoe. You right. It was Zoe because he was the last one standing. You right. You right.
You gotta get
Jerome
here, man.
Let's give Jerome a chance here. The young guy's waited. He's gonna fall asleep in his car.
Nah, I'm enjoying this.
I know you are. Not as much as I am. Trust me. This is. What do you remember most? What's the story, if there's one, and I'm sure there's many, that you'll always remember?
Well, the main thing that I remember, kind of just from a standpoint of growing up in the DC, Maryland area and watching Georgetown, watching, Mark Tillman and Jaren, Gene and Patrick, their era, I was young. So I was more reading the paper with my dad. So my dad would show me the paper, and then we talk about Georgetown. And it was just, the respect I had for Coach Thompson and what he was doing. And I just remember my dad would talk about it, and I just take it in as a young person, and I just had them at such a high pedestal. Like, just, it was just, I mean, there was no team higher than Georgetown because of the education and things that the student athletes there were doing, and representation of what Gene said represented, you know, a black school. I thought Georgetown was a HBCU. I lived in the area, but had never been on campus. And, you know, I was a late bloomer coming out of high school. So I grew after my senior year. So I was an unknown kind of guy. So
Unknown commodity.
For me, I was right, like, you know, hunting down, you know, Georgetown, Maryland, any of those athletes that were playing basketball. You know, I wanted to catch them out on the playground. So I found out where all of them played, and I'd show up. And basically, you know, word got back to John that his players were getting abused by some local kid that he didn't know nothing about, right? And the guys and the kids and people at the playground would be like, "Yo, Rome, I heard John Thompson's coming down here." And I'd be like, "Man, John Thompson ain't coming down here, man. He's not coming down here." You know, and they're like, "Yo, you keep doing this to his players, I'm telling you, he coming down." And, you know, sure enough, one Sunday, you know, he pulls up and you know, just pulls up a chair, doesn't say a word, and of course the gym's lit, and he like, you know, he just watches. And I'm out there, you know, I'm doing, you know, my normal. It did nothing changed. It actually made it worse for him because now I'm pissed. I'm like, oh, he actually showed up. So now I'm just like, I'm dunking on everybody. I'm just, you know, being a monster out there. And so after the game, I'm walking over to the sideline. He says, "Son, let me talk to you for a minute." You know, and I come over, and he says, "You know, I watched you play, and I want to know if I can get a meeting with you and your parents." You know, because he had kind of done his homework, and I was like, "Yeah, you know, sure, that's not a problem." So, you know, we come to the office at Georgetown that night, first time I had been on campus, and he asked me all these questions, and none of them had to do with basketball. It was all about education, what my goals were, and you know, my commitment to school and what I wanted to do later on in life. And no other college coach I had ever spoken with, because I was starting, you know, to get a lot of recruitment from a lot of Division I colleges, and they were all coming with a pitch. You know, some of them had cars, money, you know, girls, of course. And, you know, Coach Thompson came in and he was just talking about education. Some schools didn't even require me to go to class. It was just, yo, just come play. And that right there just solidified all the things that I had read about this great person, this great man, because I knew then that he was true. He was real. He wasn't, you know, somebody who was just on the TV that was just, you know, a fraud. And I knew then I was sold, and I wanted to come to Georgetown. And the most important thing that I can remember, and I really appreciated this because Jaron and Mark, they'll know, and Gene too, he came in too, is that all these guys would come back and play. You know, I was a player when I was coming out of school. When I came to school at Georgetown, I was a player. I wanted to play. I didn't really want to practice. I wasn't the drill guy. I wasn't the guy that wanted to You know, if you made me run, I was going to run. I could run all day. Coach knew it. Allen Iverson could run all day, but we wanted to play. And these guys would come back, you know, and the games that in the summertime with these guys, Mark, Jaron, Gene, Pat, Dikembe, Alonzo. I mean, listen, the gym was lit, and Coach Thompson be sitting up there just smiling and laughing. And I just remember Patrick and Dikembe. I mean, it was like an argument. It was like a three-headed monster. Whoever got the worst team or whatever, it was usually Dikembe. Dikembe usually was like, you know, his team was always coming off. But Patrick and Zoe's team, I mean, arguments, man. I just remember like being, you know, you wanted to be on one of their teams. I was usually on Patrick's team. Patrick usually picked me up. So, you know, that was always fun because we had a low post score and you know, they couldn't do nothing with Patrick's fadeaway on the baseline. And I just loved the fact that, you know, it was a brotherhood. You felt it, you understood it, you knew it. And they welcomed me like I had been there 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly never forgot that. I just felt like, man, you know, I was this lost sheep out there just sort of wandering around on my own. And here comes Coach Thompson on the playground, you know, to find, you know, whatever he needed to find to make his team great, to make the institution great. But for me, man, that was a game changer for my family and what he was able to do. Because I was very thankful. I mean, you know, I didn't have, you know, shoes in my closet and a whole bunch of, you know, I had paid my way to junior college. I worked at the gas station, saved up my money to pay for classes and pay for my books. So, you know, coming to Georgetown and everything was taken care of. It was something I'll never forget. It was something that really hit home for me. And when, you know, he went to cursing and cursing me out, he knew he couldn't do that too often because I was about to hurt somebody. I didn't want it to be my brothers, you know. But at the end of the day,
Hey, Roman,
Roman,
you got me thinking about when you talk about that comeback in the summertime. You got me thinking about a Mark Tillman story that I once heard about. And Mark, I'm gonna need you to tell that story about the high socks and the short. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, let me before you go in there, Mark.
Yeah.
Before you go in there, Jerome mentioned something about those moments where Coach Thompson is looking at us play in practice, like open run, and coming back in the summertime. I think that's, for many of the players, that stands out for me, and I got to believe for everyone else, as the moment where he's sitting there watching all of this talent, all these guys that have come through his program on the court at one time. These are different years. You know, we are never playing against each other at all, you know, during the year, of course, but in the summer to come and work on your game, you know, guys are coming from playing, you know, preparing for the NBA. And it's just an awesome sight, man. And I think that's the moment where I know he must have been just lit, you know, to see what he's built, to have all these guys come back in the summertime and just to play basketball. And that, we know Coach, that's all he does. He's a practice guy. He loves to sit in the gym and watch basketball. I mean, man, that chair in the gym is probably more impactful than the one on the bench, in which he sits on in the middle of the bench.
Because he never sat down. He was zoned up.
Really? He
But
always
no one sat in his chair though. No one.
No.
So no, they won't sit in it. So he may stand up, but he always has the place to go and sit.
Guys, did he
maybe one of
show?
y'all tried to make him sit, but he had a presence, man. It just I could put myself in his shoes watching all this talent on the floor in the summertime, and that's what was great about Georgetown basketball. From what I remember walking into the gym before the season and seeing all these top players playing, and guys couldn't get run. You know, you got Jerome is right. If you lose, you're gonna have you waiting 3 or 4 games to get on the court. you know, and it was pretty, you know, no referees, you know, in Oprah run, you know, unless Coach Thompson says, ball going another way. Ball going another way. He overrules every call, you know, so.
That's it.
Whatever he says, that's it. He's watching. He doesn't want to say anything, but if he has to, he will make the call.
But that was only because of Alonzo, Dikembe, and Patrick, really Dikembe, arguing with everything.
Right. That's that interior play, man. They never goaltend. There's never a goaltending call allowed. You know, so, but Coach Thompson had to be proud. And that's a moment I really, I'm happy that Coach got a chance to see that type of talent, you know, in his gym. And it makes me feel so comfortable. Even, I love the fact that you got the John Thompson Center, a beautiful practice facility. Don't get me wrong, we had some moments in McDonough. You know, that little gym was no joke. I appreciate all the investment in the new facility, but Coach put his imprint on that facility and every you know building on that campus, but particularly the old McDonough. We had some battles in there, man, that were unforgettable. So hopefully, you know, we can get back to that, you know, in the Thompson Center with respect to his name. So I think that's my thought, man.
And Mark, can I hit you with you were there? I think both you and Jaron were both there when Big John walked off the court against BC for Prop 42, right? Both of you guys there?
Yes.
What was that like? Did you know he was going to do that? To I mean, basically, I'll give the background of it. Academically ineligible freshmen were not going to be able to receive scholarships. So he came out and basically said, screw that. Like, this is bullshit. I think it was primarily because minority students and athletes were going to be the ones affected the most. But I think it was for everybody, wasn't it? That this is bullshit for these guys, that they should be able to at least keep those scholarships. So he walked off the court before the game against Boston College in '89.
Yeah, me and Jaron definitely was there. And, you know, definitely, you know, I think it was Proposition 42.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an NCAA measure that, you know, it would ban academically ineligible freshmen from receiving scholarships, if people don't know. And Thompson protested because he believed the proposition aimed to limit opportunities for minority students. And we thought it was definitely a worthy cause. I do recall, I know we talked about sitting out with him, but, you know, he wanted to take that stand himself and he wanted us to play the game, but he definitely took that big walk. And he was just frustrated, you know, with the limited options that would give minority, you know, student athletes an opportunity to probably not play in college basketball, lose a year, or not even come to school. So I think it was a worthy cause, and he wasn't scared to take that stance, and he you know, gained a lot of national attention, some backlash, obviously, but he didn't care about the backlash that he would receive because he stood for what he thought was right and to help people that look like him and what he had in his program.
And Jeff, I just want to piggyback off of that. When Coach took positions like that, as a player, and because we had instances where he pulled us off the court as well. When I tell you how you felt empowered, how you felt more united, I mean, just listening to Mark talk about it, I'm like, yeah, that's my crew. That's my crew. Because that's what the program was about. Like, we weren't, like, if you wanted to call us thugs, hood, criminals, whatever, we're going to embrace that, and we still going to whoop your ass. And we still going to graduate. And we still going to be upstanding citizens. And our coats and ties may be a little, maybe they don't fit too good because, you know, like Rome said, I ain't got a lot of shit in my closet. But check this out. We neat, we tidy, and when we get on this court, we're going to whoop your ass by any means necessary. So it's just when you hear stories like that, you know, it makes you push your shoulders back. And also, the weight of the loss is even, you know, when I was listening to Jaron talk, man, it was like I was going to start leaking over here. you know, because, you know, this thing is powerful. So, yeah, when he took positions like that as a player, he was like, so I know as I go through my journey in life, I'm going to take stands. You know, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to wait. So, yeah, that's how it spills over.
And I think that just to piggyback on that and just to add a little bit more color to Coach Thompson, not only with that stand, but he was also, you know, a pioneer that was credited with opening the door for a generation of minority coaches. You know, his national title run in '84 was the first black head coach. And I think it altered the perception of black coaches as well. And I think he needs to be credited for that too.
No, 100%. And I've said this over the last few months because number one, obviously you've got fewer black head coaches, and Horace knows this than ever in college basketball. But obviously with everything that's going on in our country with Black Lives Matter, systemic racism, you wish Big John was able to really share his voice now. Like, imagine the impact. And again, he was just so fearless. And too many people right now in college basketball, in my opinion, part of it is, listen, a lot of the black coaches, head coaches in college basketball haven't done what Big John did, what Nolan did, what John Chaney did. So it's harder, right? It's harder for them when they speak to have the same sort of impact. But, man, it would have been really cool to see what Big John would have been able to do over the last year if he were completely healthy.
Absolutely.
You know, Jeff, you mentioned Coach Thompson, his impact on the coaches. Mark mentioned it as well. He, you know, Mark is absolutely right. I remember this moment at the Final Four in Atlanta when the guys, so when I think Roy and Jeff and those guys went to the Final Four, and I went to the coaches meetings. I was fortunate enough to go to the Black Coaches Association meetings, and this is where all the coaches show up during the Final Four who do not make who are not playing. And at the meeting, I remember Coach Thompson being there, and so many of the young coaches, be it at young assistant coaches, D1, D2, HBCUs, D3, guys are trying to get into the game, were asking him questions and talking to him. They wanted to get some insight. And he really gave them time, man. He wanted to, you know, just give some words of wisdom to them. And I thought it was amazing. It's amazing when I see the impact of Coach Thompson on other people, you know, outside of Georgetown. And just for young coaches to share their stories of, man, Coach, I remember I'm coaching now, but I was at Coach Thompson's camp when I was a kid, or I was at his. They have these moments where they remember Coach, and it just tells you the impact of him and his presence off the court. And he's done so many great things for us as a coach, but his presence is just incredible. But for the young black coaches, he was always trying to inspire and help them. And I think you know, he's going to continue that even now. I think more and more black coaches are going to be motivated, you know, to strive at a Hall of Fame level. And I hope guys get opportunities. More coaches get those opportunities because of him.
Gene, did you have a chance to say goodbye to him? I know he hadn't been doing that well lately. Did you have a chance, an opportunity?
No, and as I spoke earlier, you know, we all had our individual relationships and flows with Coach. There was no collective kumbaya shit. And I say that because I read something that Chris Wright tweeted yesterday, and this is kind of, you know, I don't want to take up too much time because we're running over, and I've already yeah.
It's on you guys. If you guys want to keep going,
yeah.
I'm not jumping off.
Yeah.
It's up to you guys. There's no time limit from me.
Yeah. It's just one of those deals where Chris Wright said, you know, Coach, rest easy. We got it from here. So the cats I'm looking at, and all the cats that wore blue and gray, we got it from here. So whatever that looks like, because this is not the 1980s. So we're not trying to conduct ourselves like it's the 1980s. The program is not in the 1980s, you know, Hoya paranoia phrase. Don't get me wrong, that Hoya paranoia will always be part of our personality, part of our DNA. But how we communicate, how we control our narrative is important. And I just think just hearing these voices more, like you were saying earlier, I'm hearing people talk about Lute Olson. They don't fucking know Lute. They don't know Lute.
That's right.
So for us, it's like you talking about Coach. Y'all don't really know Coach because again, it's just something. It was something unique, and it will always be something unique. The only story I want to share is piggyback off of Jaron's when he was talking about the Olympics, because this again, Jeff, it's kind of in your world. Coach was being interviewed in Seoul in 1988. 100 sports writers there, right? He gets a call. He gets a question from a reporter. Are you racist? And Big John goes, if I was racist, I'd only be talking to this one guy. And he points to the one guy. It was the only black reporter out of the 100, and it was Curtis Bunn.
Really?
And Tim, I think you know Curtis Bunn, DC Cat.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those deals where it's moments like that when you say fearless. That's fucking fearless. Because the last thing dude is a racist. But again, if you want to go there, let me really show you what a racist is. Yeah. Right? So he was just so dope and hit you in the head when you least expect it. With the King's English, or he can hit you with some other shit. So, and it speaks to what Jerome was talking about, going to the playground and pulling up a chair. Coaches weren't doing that back then, and probably was in the hood somewhere. So, yeah, but I did not get a chance to say my goodbyes. But again, that's not what this is about. Like I don't, that it's ingrained in all of us, right? So we go, I'm sure Tillman had the best relationship with Big John, I think, out of all the crew that's on now. And so I'm living through that. So it's an extension. It's a cord that to me will never be broken.
Let me jump. I got a question for Jerome. And I'm only doing this because we're doing a lot of talking. Eugene, you getting it in. Mark, we got a lot of 80s stories and whatever. But this is a question for Jerome. Because he was after us. Romy, man, I sit there and I look at, y'all moment when y'all played against Ray Allen in the Garden, and they talk about that game a lot, and you guys had a hell of a team, and I just want to get some insight on how you felt during that time and what Coach Thompson was like during that time when you guys, Victor Page, AI, Bubaka, I love that name, man, and these guys. You guys had an amazing team. Jihadi doing his thing, and you guys were just as intimidating as many teams that come through Georgetown. What was that like? And tell us what was it like? Because that was one of Coach's. Remember now, during that stretch, Coach had already been through some amazing teams throughout his tenure at Georgetown. It was one of his. He was at the end of his time as the head coach at Georgetown. So what was it like with Coach Thompson and during that moment in the Garden, in the Big East? For a guy like Coach who's been in the Garden many times before then, playing big games.
Right. Man, let me tell you something. What I understood from just living in the area is that, before that kind of group came together with AI, myself, Georgetown was not one of the top teams in the Big East. Mm-hmm. And Coach used to always smile, like, because when he signed me, he said he kind of chuckled and was like, "We on our way back," right? And this is probably a couple months before he had signed AI. Mm-hmm. And I remember coming into his office. He said he called me in his office, and he said, "Hey, we just signed this kid, Allen."
Oh, get him back, Jeff.
Breeze, he's got to move. He's got to move to a different spot. He'll jump back in. I'm sure he'll get to a different spot here in a minute.
Jeff, I
He
sound
getting ready,
like
he
you
getting ready to
in
go
that
work out.
Yeah,
He's gonna work out. That's right.
He's
He's
gonna
a lot
go get it in.
Hey, he's a lot younger than all you guys. And me.
It looks a whole lot better.
Exactly. That's right. Gene, I don't know what you got under that hat, but
You don't want to know. Nobody wants to know. If I take this bitch off, the whole screen gonna go dark.
what's his legacy going to be, guys? And anybody can jump in with legacy, with another story that they're thinking. But I mean, to me, again, somebody used this word earlier. I forget who, but pioneer. I mean, that's the word that I just kind of associate with Big John.
Trailblazer.
Yeah, I definitely say trailblazers, Jeff. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit, call it quits. But I was truly blessed, man, to be a coach and to see what Coach Thompson had to go through to build programs. One thing that I really enjoyed about Coach Thompson was when we walked through the airport. Man, we were suited, booted, tied down. I mean, we looked good, and that's what Coach was all about. He was about being first class. You know, Gene had on his suit, I had on my suit. You know, we might even had London fogs on, nice shoes. And I mean, we used to walk through the airport. I mean, obviously Coach Thompson and Pat got a lot of attention, but all eyes was on us. And you talk about a black man, he understood that. He wanted us to look good. He wanted us to present ourselves at the highest level. And I used to love it, man. I used to love walking through the airport. Sometimes we used to walk through the airports and see different teams, and they in sweatsuits, tennis shoes, and you could see their jaw drop, like, you know, looking at these immaculate young black men, not only, you know, going to a hell of an institution, but dressing real well, presenting themselves real well, and then at the same time we going on a business trip. That's basically what he said. We're going on a business trip, and we'll walk into arenas, and you know, all eyes will be on us. And you know, we'll do our thing, take our showers, suit up, and we'll be gone again. One thing that Jaron did, Coach Thompson was real good at staging. Jaron came late to the meeting. Coach Thompson used to intentionally do that sometimes. When we was at the Big East, we had going to the banquet. He might come to the banquet. The banquet was started. Everybody's sitting down. Everybody's talking, and then all of a sudden we bust through the door with our suits on. You know, everybody turning around looking at Georgetown University. So that's one thing I really appreciate about Coach. He was first class, detailed, you know, from a coach. A lot of energy. I practiced, and I tried to emulate that. I really couldn't, because I really understood how much energy. We talk about the practices, Gene. That dude had a lot of energy to get us to where we needed to be. And I just appreciate that, because, I mean, he could have just let us run around wild and crazy and just say, hey, let's win some basketball games. Let's exploit these dudes for my own personal gain. But for the most part, man, he gave us a great foundation. You know, I try to implement that in my kids when we travel. We coat and tie, the pilots, the people in the airport just giving us compliments. And just trying to teach these guys how to dress and interview one day. And I really appreciate that. And you know, like I told a lot of people, he's gonna be missed, but he ain't gonna be forgotten. So you know, we got plenty more stories to tell, and I'm pretty sure me, Mark, and Jerome and Gene, you know, when we get together individually or as a group, we're gonna have our laughs.
Well, give me a good story from the national title game. You and Gene. Give me something on Coach, something after the game, during the game. What was? Give me something that stands out from that game. What was it?
I mean, for me, it's not necessarily the game, but leading up to the game. I think, I don't know, I told this story to somebody. Michael Graham, me and Michael Graham was sitting on the bench. Gene talking about he didn't play a lot. I didn't play a lot sometimes. So we sitting on the bench. Michael Graham is, you know, pissed off. I think we played against Dayton. And, you know, the game was over. Coach put Michael in. And I think Michael dunked the ball. And he just did a 180 and turn.
Cedric Tony.
Somebody was standing there.
Cedric Tony.
Mike knocked the dude. I mean, you talking about flagrant 1, flagrant 2, suspended for 4 games. He knocked him to damn near half court, and I think he just got a common foul, really. And what was so beautiful about that, Coach had about him. Michael didn't play that much that year, but he somehow saw something was in Mike that particular moment. Mike was pissed off because he wasn't playing, and Coach instilled him into the rotation in the Final Four, and him and Pat played extremely well. And I still talk to people today, and they talk about Michael Graham, and I tell them, I say, hey, Mike wasn't playing that much, that whole year, but he stepped on the stage at the right time, and that's something special from Coach Thompson that he could identify that. And he knew that this team needed a little spark. We were good enough to win, and I mean, Michael shined like unbelievable, but with a lot of energy. So, Mike knocked the crap out of that dude, man.
And to piggyback on that, I wasn't part of that national champion team, but I saw it, I witnessed it, and just me being a part of that Georgetown family that is overlooked. And Gene talked about it, Jaron talked about it, and definitely Horace just eloquently talked about how polished we were as players. But what people don't understand is, and him talking about Michael Graham is when Mike grabbed that microphone and started talking on national on CBS during the championship game.
Yeah.
And not only just that, all of us had that ability to articulate ourselves, which people didn't think because Coach held us from the media.
Oh,
that was just only the first semester of our freshman year.
Yeah.
And then after that, we were allowed to talk to the media. But people didn't realize how articulate we was. And I thought when Mike got on the stage at that time, because people look at us like, this to be truthful about it, dumb jocks. Team full of black players. Coach don't let them speak because they can't speak.
Yeah. But
when Michael did that on national TV, the Final Four, the championship game, that showed not only him, but that picture illustrated everyone that played for Georgetown.
Did you guys hate that?
He took the mic from Brent Musburger.
Did you guys get pissed? Because I always did. When I was talking to a Georgetown player in the locker room, no matter what, I had Shap like over me, looking at me and wondering, like, was somebody going to say something to me that was going to be controversial or negative or whatever? Did that piss you guys off that you didn't have the freedom to do at the time? I assume it did. Your college kids, right?
It did not. For me, Jeff, and it's no offense to the media, and y'all want to do y'all jobs, but I think, I enjoyed talking to the media, but at the same time, I was an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 21-year-old kid, and I really enjoyed my time at Georgetown because Coach Thompson, he didn't necessarily protect us from the media. He just wanted us to be normal kids. I mean, today, Zion Williams' son, those kids can't be student athletes. They're not student athletes. And that's what Coach Thompson allowed us to be. He gave us access to the media, but he didn't want y'all to dominate the narrative. Coach Thompson is never going to let nobody dictate to him. So, but my 4 years at Georgetown, I was a student. A lot of times I was a student. I had an opportunity to be a student and wasn't interfered by a lot of people, particularly the media. So, because we played hard. We played hard, and we had to go to class, and a lot of times we needed to unwind and just be college students. And I think he allowed us to do that, not letting too many people to interfere. And I know, from a media perspective, y'all want to do y'all job, y'all want to get the turn, y'all, but at the same time, we human beings, and he allowed us to be human beings, and he kind of protected us from that perspective, and not.
On that note, to Horace's point, like for me,
hey, hold on,
Gene.
Yeah, hold up. Let Jerome come back in here, man. Is he back on?
Yeah,
there.
Romy.
Is Romy back there?
Romy back.
There he is.
Can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you? Am I on? Can you hear what I'm saying?
Man.
Hey, when you get 50, you're gonna slow down.
Hey man, listen. Here's the thing, right? Gene knows about this smoke. We all deal with different things in life in different ways. Right now, you're looking at some victims right now. They're warming up. They don't know what's about to hit them right now. They don't know, man. They got some bent up stuff got to be released. It's unfortunate for them, but y'all are all witnesses to, Coach Thompson's legacy getting ready to unfold.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that's, that's just real. And to go back to Jaron's question about the Big East back in the day, I was saying that Coach Thompson would smile because he felt like it reminded him of the teams of yesteryear with his championship teams. With me, Othello Harrington, Jahadi White, AI, of course, Boubacar Al, George Butler. We had a nice little squad, and I used to sit down and I kind of understood his smile, his joy in watching us, and knowing that every time we stepped on that court, we were either the favorite or, there was very little chance that the team was going to beat us. And yeah, we did get beat on occasion on some nights, but I felt like he had that confidence he had when you guys played for him. And that was what was a joy for me, because I kind of understood it because of the things that he would drop nuggets on me, Coach, he used his language in a way that it would let people know that he was serious.
Very
Hey,
colorful.
look, I want to share something with you guys, man. I'm sitting here going through some old stuff, and I pulled this out, man. Check this out.
I love
you guys
that
got
book.
a copy of this, man?
Yes, we do. Yes, I
Look,
do.
man. Look, when they put this together, I thought this was amazing. First of all, I didn't know they could even do something like this, and it's kind of like a yearbook or a decade book or a 30-year of Georgetown book, but it's the history of Georgetown
Right.
basketball. And I hope everybody that have ever played at Georgetown has a copy of this. Everybody should have it. But it says a lot about, the history of Georgetown, and of course Coach Thompson when he was there, man. But I wanted to just put that on the screen so you guys, Jeff, can see that. Jeff, I don't know if you got one of those.
I got to get one.
Yeah, man. So it has like nice little illustrations inside, outside where you open it up, and a lot of pictures and a lot of talk and writings and clippings of past events and games at Georgetown through Coach Thompson's time, JT3, up until Coach Estrick as well. Just it talks about Georgetown in a positive light, man. So it's worth getting and reviewing a little bit when you get a chance.
All right. Well, listen. Let's kind of wrap this with kind of final thoughts, words, anything. We'll kind of go around the horn here. Of just something maybe you want to say about him, something you would say to him. Jaron, you can start.
I'll go first. I had a chance. You asked Gene about the last time I saw Coach Thompson. So I was in D.C. for one of the final games of the season this year. I saw Patrick. I went to practice, and I went to Coach Ewan's practice, and Coach Thompson was there. As you guys know, he loves practice. He loves being at the practice, being at Summer League or anywhere. He's in the gym. Well, this one time I saw him, and I hadn't seen him in a while. I had heard that he wasn't doing well, and I know he was moving around in a wheelchair and being cared for, going to the practices and games. But I saw him, and he was just his same old self, dropping F-bombs and I mean, nothing stops him from getting his point across. But I would say it was so good to see him look at his former players kind of walking around and seeing Patrick handle his own practices. So to get to see him that one last time, he talked about it was refreshing because he had a smile on his face, and you cannot argue with him about who's the greatest player ever because it's not Michael Jordan. It's not. He would argue you down for Elgin Baylor. I mean, that's his guy.
Really?
I mean, Elgin Baylor is his guy, man. I mean,
really?
Like
I didn't know that.
I thought it was Bill
Elgin
Russell.
Baylor is his guy because he knows. I know he knows how good of a player Elgin was during his day, and I don't think he thinks today's guys or the people give Elgin his respect due. But Coach Thompson would. You know, he always telling young folks, "You guys just don't know Elgin, man. You guys just don't understand it." You know, so it was great to see him. And we talked about that. I mean, you know, so I was very happy for him, you know, because I knew at that time he was struggling, you know. And I know when I get older, you know, I want to be in a position where, you know, I'm around people that I love and I get to share stories and talk about great moments. And as a coach, you know, Horace coaches, you know, to be a coach, you know, at our age, man, we understand we are truly, truly blessed we're fortunate to coach. It's not like I know we're doing something for the young players, but these young players, they're doing something for us too. And I think Coach Thompson understood that. And that was a moment where I felt like his former players were in his presence, and he got to just talk about old times, man. And it made him feel good for this one moment in which he knew he's sick, he's battling, but to be around people that he coached and to talk old stories, that's a great feeling, man. And it's kind of like what we're doing right now, man. It's a good feeling to be on the broadcast with you guys. And I'm glad that last moment I got a chance to see Coach and to talk about him. So salute to Coach Thompson. Much respect to his thoughts of Elgin Baylor. And on this day, Elgin Baylor is the greatest player ever.
There you go. Nobody's arguing. Nobody's arguing. That's right. Jerome, you still there?
Absolutely. I'm still here. I'm still here warming up, getting this thing warmed up.
Let's get Jerome out of here. So let's get him next. All right. And,
hey, final words is this, man. I want to echo what Gene said. The legacy lives on because of what Coach Thompson instilled in us, the opportunity that he gave us. And I'm just so happy and fortunate to have been a part of it and have been welcomed into the family because, you know, like I said, it was groundbreaking for me. And those moments that I shared with my brothers in the locker room and also my older brothers who would come back and play with me would never be forgotten. And that's all because of Coach Thompson. You know, he set the foundation and he set the standard very high. He meant a lot to not only us, but the Black community with the things he stood for, the things he stood up to. And everything that he did and said, you know, is still alive today with us, with these stories and things we're able to pass along to the next generation because there'll never be another Coach Thompson. But his legacy will live through all those players that experienced him, you know, in the locker room, not outside the locker room. So God bless all of you, and thank you for having this podcast. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jerome. Really appreciate you coming on. Now you can get up some shots, get some rebounds.
Don't hurt him too hard, J-Dog. Don't hurt him too hard.
Hurt him, J-Dog.
All right, who's next?
Well, I'll go ahead. For me, John Thompson Jr. will be remembered for a larger-than-life that extended beyond basketball. He was a towering presence in college basketball, as we know, both in physical stature and his impact that was on the court. His legacy will be an uncompromising advocate for social justice. He was ahead of his time.
Very true. Very, very true.
I'll go next because I like to end with Horace.
You should go last.
No, let me go. I'm gonna try to be quick, man. I mean,
if he goes last, this thing's never ending.
Yeah, if I go last, this is gonna be a problem. I apologize, guys. For the guy who don't know what to say, can't put out like I got a lot to say, so I apologize. For me, it's real simple. I mentioned those two posts earlier from Sleep and Smitty, Irk Smith. And I think it was Irk Smith that said, I owe who I am to you. And that's Big John. So I owe a huge part of who I am now to Big John. And, you know, that's as succinct as I can be. I think in terms of his impact on the world, that story has yet to be told in an appropriate fashion. And again, I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm not saying this, that, or the other. I mean, we can find reasons why, but I'm a solutions guy. So let's solve the problem. And the 5 guys you got here now, you got a byline, you got a storyline. And again, this thing is deep. I mean, this thing goes back to 72, 73 when he started. So for me, I'm just, you know, I think the fact that it hasn't been done, he hasn't been appreciated that way, shows you how powerful it is. Right.
It sucks that it takes somebody leaving to be appreciated like this, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the hardest part of it all. Is now you're here, and that's kind of why I wanted to do this. You know,
and I do want to thank you, Jeff, for this. I do absolutely want to thank you. So,
I appreciate you guys coming on. I hope it's cathartic.
Ways
to see each other. I think that's got to be the cool part of this is reliving the story, seeing each other. Horace, we'll end with you because you're the smartest one of the group. Everybody knows.
Can I share my title, my NCAA title moment?
Yeah, of course.
It's about Horace. It's actually Horace.
All right.
No, I won't talk about that. but my moment that always rings in my head about the Final Four run was Horace and I were in the game at the same time. And I think it was James Blackman was on the wing and he did something. And Horace cut him off and he traveled. So there was no real huge big play, but it's the fact that Horace made that effort to get to a spot and do travel. Man, I went over and gave Horace not a high five, I gave him a low five. And it was like we were on that. It was just like that kind of energy. And that was my highlight of the Final Four run, Horace. I don't know if you remember that, but you did. You cut dude off and I was like, man, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. So that's my NCAA moment. Apologies again. I'm going on mute.
Oh man, Gene gave me a lot of energy, man. He was inspiration to me to play defense because that's the only way I could get off the bench, man. To play defense. I came from Florida, averaging 25 points a game, and couldn't get off the bench for Coach Thompson. But Emily Gene took his energy. So, but oh man, the last time I spoke with Coach Thompson, it's been probably about a year. I usually meet him, you know, once or twice a year. Sometime, you know, either on a recruiting trail or at the Final Four, definitely. I think the last time I talked to him, I was kidding. It's been over a year, probably a year and a half. I was like, Coach, man, I know you're getting old, but you still got to be a role model for me. I'm young. I want to, you know, do certain things like you in your old age. And he was like, hey, son, this goddamn old age ain't what it's cracked up to be. You know? So, and then just another moment, man. I was happy that I was in D.C. with my wife and my two young boys. I think they might have been 6 and 7, and I was in the arena. I don't know who was practicing. I think JT. I don't know if it was over the summertime. We might have was at a camp or something watching, and I guess Coach had a chair, and you know, I let my wife sit in that chair, and I didn't know it was his chair at that time, you know. And sure enough, here come Coach Thompson come through the door. Who the hell is this sitting in my goddamn seat? So, you know, hey, man, I got to stand up for my lady. I said, goddamn, Coach, this is my wife, man.
Who won? Horace, who sat in the chair?
He kind of gave me a little respect, you know, and then he met my 2 boys, which was good, you know. And they'll always remember that. We took pictures, so definitely my 2 little boys checked, well, they ain't no boys, now they're 18 and 20, so they checked on me yesterday and asked me was I all right. Told them I was. So I think the thing about Coach Thompson, man, that I loved about that dude, and if I could live a part of my life, the remaining part of my life as he did, I said that in the 80s, he never let anyone dictate to him how he was going to live his life, you know, how he's going to run Georgetown program. I mean, he took a lot of shit for it, you know, and he did it with style, he did it with grace, he did it first class, and he won a championship with it, you know, and he lived his life, man, as if he had no limits on his ability, and I look at that and I said, damn, I wish I could do 20% of that, you know. If I could do 100%, I'll be beyond great. But and that's how he separated himself. I mean, he knew what his calling was. I mean, he did it through basketball, and he's definitely gonna be remembered. He's definitely not gonna be forgotten. He's definitely gonna be remembered. So I'm gonna miss the big dude. I used to call him a lot, and you know, he used to like to be. If you're gonna call him, like Mark said, you got to call him late. He said, "Your son called me, you know, late." I called the motherfucker at 1:30 in the morning. He's asleep. I said, "Damn, you told me." But most of the time, that's when I called him. 1:30, 12:30. If I was gonna catch him, that's when I was gonna catch him. And I appreciate him. I'm glad I had an opportunity to coach because I could see it through his eyes. And what he did is unbelievable. I can't even scratch the surface at how he motivated young black men.
Listen, guys, my condolences to all you guys, to the Georgetown community, to obviously the Thompson family. One of the greatest to ever do it. And again, his impact, not just in the basketball court, you guys all shared your experiences. I really appreciate you doing this. I hope, like I said, I hope it was cathartic for you, as it was entertaining and enlightening for me, because I can listen to you guys talk all day. I know Gene's got nothing else to do, but I know the rest of you got things you got to do. So I'm going to let you run.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you so much, man.
Jeff, I appreciate you.
Appreciate it, Jeff. Real good.
Stay
man.
in touch.
Thank you.
Really good.